thought it would be fitting for you to join me in Siberia today, aka one of the coldest rooms at HQ. And I don't know, I was just thinking, you know what I'm going to use these kind of videos for, to sort of make content while I'm doing things, because I can just mic it up and I can just speak. And if it's something that sounds good, looks good in the end, then these are the early days of progression, I suppose. But I wanted to talk today about like the decision to employ family members and friends, and I guess how that affected the way that I ran business. Like, I think I'm probably going to go into some of this content a little bit like overly sharing to begin with, but I'm sort of not that bothered at this point. I think like authenticity is key, and if you know what sort of person I am, then you have a bit of a better idea whether you want to watch me or not. But yeah, employing friends and family. Had a lot of time to think about this one. Like, had a lot of time to think about, you know, how I would even approach talking about this, how it's even worth breaking down. Because it's not an easy one to kind of go into, because there's just a lot of complexities to, like, the whole employing friends and family. So I'll try and keep it relatively light, but at the same time with the lessons I learned doing so. So I suppose when you start a business, if you're one of those friends that like is, and I mean this with all due respect to people who just like to grind on their own like work, but some people have friends that just want to like build stuff, like you want to create something, you want to make something that's yours. And I guess when you do that, you can attract like friends that are inspired by it, or that they just like what you're doing, and you know, they might just want to be a part of it without saying they want to be a part of it, without sounding too much like praisey on yourself. But for me, obviously with Gully, I'd started it at an early point, but at a point when I was still pretty into like having a big social presence in a personal way. So I kind of just like went out, enjoyed life, heaven forbid, but like went out and just did things and just enjoyed parts of life, as you should. But along the way, obviously, I was still doing this thing, this clothing selling, and it just started to become, it basically just became a massive part of who I am and what I do. And I suppose with that, being around a lot of people all the time that see that, you kind of become a product of your environment, but you also get motivated by what's around you. Supposedly, if I'm doing that sort of thing, being creative, it attracts people to have interest as well. Anyway, so why did I employ friends? In the simplest answer, and the most probably honest, comfort, simplifying the process. I didn't have to even think about what sort of employee I would want, because I made my friends mold into what I would want them to be as an employee, if that makes sense. So I didn't really think about the jobs that I was filling as, oh, I need this sort of person to do administration, I need this kind of job for handling parcels. I just thought, I have a friend, he's quite good at organisation, he's pretty like dominating in terms of like how his presence is, he might be good as a team leader, you know, like I kind of have reiterated or reinforced before, this was all like self-taught business on the job, which I guess gives more kudos to what I did, but also probably more to my detriment of like why I employed my friends and I didn't think things through. I think everybody like has that part of them though, where if you was making something and it started to like blow up, and your friendship circle was supportive, or the people around you just seemed like your sort of people, and business wasn't what you wanted to do, the unintelligent person in business, ergo me, or anybody, might just sort of think, well, these people, I sort of trust these people, and I know these people, and I've almost got like employees to go. That's kind of how I saw things, and that's one of the main reasons why employing friends is not really a good idea. I've learned a lot from employing friends. I've learned an awful lot from like employing friends and stuff like that. And I'll just tell you now, for not to be somber, but to be totally real, all the people that I employed, I'm no longer in contact with. All of them. Like, and that kind of speaks its own volume, I suppose. If I was still in contact with them, then they would have been friends through and through, but also that's kind of lesson of, I don't know, you don't shit where you eat. You don't, you sort of have to have some separation with what you do. Otherwise it's just kind of like carnage. So yeah, employing friends, some of the biggest things I learned from doing that was that something that feels good in a moment doesn't necessarily guarantee that it'll feel good for a lifetime. Employing people out of convenience is as it says, and it is something out of convenience. If eating a takeaway versus making a healthy meal is out of convenience to not spending time making a proper meal, whereas the same thing with employing people who you know rather than looking for people who would be better for the job, or even so creating a job that they might want to work for, is almost a shortcut to you going, yeah, I've got employees to go now, I can just continue, I don't have to slow down the process. And that's what I did. So I wouldn't say I regret employing friends at the time. If anything, employing friends or employing people who are friends at a time kind of shows you over time what sort of friends they are. Yeah, and that's a little look into friendships and employing your friendships, I suppose.